So today is August 28th. It's Friday, and there's a new development in the story around recalling Sisolak. The group Fight for Nevada has just experienced a mutiny. All the county leaders across the state have gotten together and decided to create a new group separate from the Fight for Nevada group. They have discussed corruption and lack of transparency as the main reasons for their mutiny. And so I've had a conversation. I was notified by a leader in this new group called Rebecca Fielding, who pasted a big long message that was shared with everyone, which I will read to you now. To all volunteers, as your county leader in the effort to recall our governor, I would like to take this opportunity to first thank you for helping make this happen. I also must inform you that this organization, known as Fight for Nevada, does not have the best interests of Nevada at heart. It has been discovered that an officer in the organization has a felony conviction for forgery on his record. Additionally, there has been a total lack of transparency on questions of budget and spending. When asked direct questions, the leadership of Fight for Nevada has been evasive or dismissive. Every effort has been made to rectify these concerns by the state and county leaders, but no solution has been forthcoming in the upper echelons. There has been a decided lack of leadership at the highest levels, and it can no longer be tolerated. As with my organization, or as with any organization, once it becomes evident that it no longer represents its original function, it must be dissolved. While regrettable, it is necessary to do so. The consensus among the county leaders is that we must sever our ties with that entity and create a new organization that truly represents our goal of recalling our governor. Henceforth, we will be known as Battle Born Patriots. This organization has, unlike Fight for Nevada, a set of bylaws under which we will operate and are available to everyone who wishes to see them. Battle Born Patriots will be open and transparent in every aspect of our recall effort. The officers of this organization will be elected, not appointed, and sincerely hope, and will serve at the pleasure of a board of directors. Okay, that's another way of saying it, but I regret any confusion this action may cause and sincerely hope that you will stay the course as we continue to rectify the condition that can no longer be tolerated. We cannot fail with this effort if we are all on the same goal. Recall Sisolak. Please watch the following video for more information. My co-lead and I have decided to go with Battle Born Patriots and continue our fight. Okay. Let me just say that the big problem with this text is that there is no transparency, even though they're declaring that they have transparency. And the biggest problem is that if they have a set of bylaws, it needs to be on a web page, and that web page has a URL, and they need to take that URL and either share it or put it in a bit.ly, shorten it down, and share it so that you're completely transparent. I mean, if you're completely transparent and you have a set of bylaws, which seem to be the most important thing to, that sets you apart from Fight for Nevada, then you need to be transparent in sharing those bylaws. Now, they say that they're going to elect a president after a couple more chats back and forth. It became apparent that they already elected a president and that the people that were electing the president were the county leaders from the Fight for Nevada group. So there's a mutiny, and the leaders who were in charge of the volunteers created a separate group, and they elected a president to which we have no transparency for who that person is. Now, let's go to the YouTube video where this person is going to tell us more.
Hello. If you are watching this video, I can assume it's because you care about the great state of Nevada and are concerned about the organization known as Fight for Nevada. In its original incarnation, Fight for Nevada was a grassroots movement to recall the current governor of our state. The first effort was not successful, and a new version of the organization was put in place. The representatives and officers of this organization were not elected, they were appointed. There is no transparency with this organization. When asked for founding documents, for example, a charter or bylaws, there were none forthcoming. Additionally, it has been discovered that one of the officers of the organization has a felony conviction for forgery. On its face, this is a cause for concern. However, Should the current recall effort be successful, it will be contested in court. This would taint the case at the very minimum or be sufficient cause to throw it out. And again, the effort to recall the governor would fail. It is with my deepest regret that I have to inform you that it is my opinion and the opinion of the state and county leads that the Fight for Nevada organization does not have the best interests of Nevada at heart. Therefore, a new organization has been created and is founded on a set of bylaws with elected officers answerable to a board and dedicated to total transparency with one ultimate goal: recall our governor. Thank you.
Okay, so there's no video description, which means that there's still no link to the bylaws. But also the main problem that is explained was some person with a felony conviction of forgery, but there's no transparency explaining who that person is or how that relates to the Fight for Nevada group. You know, there's not an accusation made by this convicted forgerer about what actually happened in the organization that leads to lack of transparency, lack of trust, and there's no identification of this person. Why not? Why can't you just say the person's name so we have and explain why that actually is the root of the issue, which it doesn't seem to be. And then the other part was the emphasis on failure without a solution as to how they're going to overcome that. They just create a new group and you know, tarnish the reputation of Fight for Nevada. Rightfully so. They have a bad reputation. They are failures. They're aggressive. They're divisive. But is this group any different? Is this group really that much better without this actual transparency, even though they are claiming to have more transparency and not really delivering any results? So they say that there's going to be a lawsuit and that Sisolak's going to contest it, and there's just going to be a lot more failure. By the way, we have bylaws. We're a new group. It just doesn't quite make sense. It doesn't solve all the questions. It doesn't answer all the questions or solve all the problems, creating this new group. And therefore, I just must ask the question, is Sisolak, who I believe to be leading, Team Sisolak, who I believe to be leading Fight for Nevada by proxy, getting ahead of the story that Fight for Nevada is, in fact, being led by Sisolak by creating this new group and trying to spin a narrative about a forgerer being the problem, when in fact the real problem is the centralization of power controlled by the person we're trying to get rid of, controlling that recall effort. Right? So that's the big concern. That's the real big concern. And if this group is truly a bunch of good patriots all the way through, every person, then they just have to explain themselves and they need to be more transparent. So either they need to figure out how to be more transparent with apps like Loom, where they can do video screen recordings like I'm doing now and just explain in detail with screen views of what's going on in the forgery department, you know, in the criminal sector, in the financial sector, and in the labor sector, in their team. They just need to explain more, and they're really not explaining much. Okay? And then the group that they've created is another group. And so apparently there's not only 2 Fight for Nevada Facebook recall groups, but there's also a separate group for every single county across the state. They've diluted the unification of this groups down so much, it just doesn't make sense that they create a new group, which is what this is. Where, as you can see, Battle Born Patriots is initialized in the star, but they're not actually Battle Born Patriots. They're Taking Back Nevada. And so there's a new group. It's 3 hours into the press release, and there's only 135 members, in which there were, and still is, 20,000 members on the Facebook, on the original Fight for Nevada Facebook group. So it just isn't adding up. There's a lot of problems. And the biggest problem is still present. The same mistake. It's a repetition of the same mistake. This is why I really have a problem getting emotionally invested into the organization intending on recalling Sisolak and why I've created my own and will continue to be transparent and continually working on this campaign. And it's because of this one reason. The Nevada Revised Statutes, the NRS, limits a recall effort to 90 days to get the people's signatures. So once you formalize a petition with the Secretary of State, you have 90 days in order to get, in this case, 244,000 signatures by Nevadans who voted in 2018. Now, really, it's only an effort you could undertake if you have access to the voter files and you're able to do some sifting beforehand. My process, my plan is to reserve this formal petition process with the Secretary of State until we have a digital list of 244,000 verified Nevadan voters. Makes sense, right? Once you know who's going to sign, you start the process and you talk to those people to get their signature in the next couple weeks. Therefore, you could easily succeed in 90 days. However, if you go to the Secretary of State and you don't have that list, you're hoping you succeed, but you don't know if you will. And that's the biggest problem. When I messaged Rebecca Fielding, who is a leader of this new group in the mutiny, Battle Born Patriots, she admitted that they already signed that petition. Where is it? Right here. Right here. Let's see if we can zoom in on it. We can. Okay, as you can see, right here, it says, she says, the group filed with the Secretary of State already. So the petition is right around the corner. Now, either I'm missing something and the Secretary of State has to do something before they start that deadline, or she actually doesn't know what she's talking about and that deadline already started and they've got 90 days from whenever they signed up. One or the other. Either way, they're in a rush. And that's what she admitted here. We are pedaling as fast as we can. I don't know if they have their ducks in a row. I'm not in their organization. They just had a mutiny and they're acting like they've got everything under control, even though there's been a few missteps, which I have explained to you here in this video. So it's up to you. You make the call, and by all means, go sign that petition. If they succeed, great. If they don't, oh well. I am still going to continue working, building my list until we have 244,000 Nevadan patriots who are eligible to sign this petition before we formalize that process. And if they wish to come to me for my list, I will ask the people who signed up if they would like their information transferred over, or if they would like to contact them directly and I could share the link with them. But if they didn't reach out to me before going to the Secretary of State, and if they didn't reach out to me before the news conference that they were staging a mutiny, that they had separated from Fight for Nevada, then they've already made mistakes. Why didn't they come to me beforehand and get me involved in this process? So at the very least, I could share this news about Fight for Nevada with the people that signed up in my list. It's as simple as that. So my name is John Cardiff Gerhardt. Not only am I leader of a recall campaign against Governor Sisolak, but I'm also a nonpartisan assembly candidate for District Number 12, which covers the East Henderson and East Las Vegas area. If you want to contact me or get involved with the recall process, my group name is Recall Sisolak Round 2 on Facebook. And my website is votecardiff.org. Thank you very much, and may God bless the people of Nevada.